I have some Christian romance recommendations for you today. Hello book lover, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kay if you're new here, and we love to talk about Christian fiction books on this little corner of YouTube. And today I have a whole list of different Christian fiction romance books for you. I've got romantasy, historical romance, and then I have contemporary, inspirational romance, so I hopefully have something on this list for everybody. I thought with Valentine's Day coming up, why not just go ahead and do a romance recommendation video? I know some people totally think Valentine's Day is overrated and all that kind of stuff, but I just think it's fun, and I think it's okay for things just to be fun sometimes. Without further ado, let's just jump into these Christian fiction romance recommendations. Howdy. Hey, hi. Editing Kay here. I totally forgot to mention, I have not read any of the books on this romance list yet. This is a TBR for romance books for me. So if you read any of these and the Christian content seems a little questionable or you feel spiritually underwhelmed, I lovingly plead the fifth. All of these books are being marketed as Christian fiction books, so there's gotta be some level of faith content in it. Just know that the ones leaning on the more inspirational side are probably going to have more faith content than something like a rom-com. Alright, thank you for letting me interrupt. Back to the scheduled program. There are 4 books on this list that I do not physically own. I have them on Kindle, so I want to talk about them first. First, we're going to go through romantasy, and then we're going to go into historical romance all the way up until modern day romance. When it comes to Christian romantasy, I was actually really disappointed when I was looking at my shelves and looking at all of the different clean romantasy recommendations that I've received from friends, and I realized that hardly any of them are labeled as Christian romantasy. If you have any recommendations past the few that I'm going to put in this video, please leave them in the comments. Not that there's anything wrong with just clean romantasy. I think that is awesome. Clean romance in general is fabulous. But sometimes the term clean can still have sin glorified throughout the story and secular themes and things like that. And I personally am just looking for more faith-filled storylines. When it comes to romantasy, the first one I have on this list is Alliance Bride by J.L. Knight. If you've been around here, you know that I read Resistance by her and I absolutely loved it. Alliance Bride is her newest book, and when it comes to fantasy, I'm just going to read the synopsis of each of these because fantasy can be a little bit more intricate and I don't want to say something wrong with the storyline. Alliance Bride by J.L. Knight. A kingdom in danger, a marriage born of duty, a love neither expected. Edelynn's homeland teeters on the brink of ruin. After years under her father's violent, indulgent rule, Essex is fractured and vulnerable, an easy target for enemy kingdoms. With her younger brother newly crowned and the throne unsteady, Edlyn, guys, I'm probably totally saying her name wrong and I'm so sorry. Edlyn offers the only thing she has, herself. A marriage alliance with the fierce Nords may be Essex's last hope for survival, but it means leaving behind everything she's ever known and placing her fate in the hands of a people known for their brutality. Still, Edlyn is willing to risk it all and trust the God she's always believed in to protect her and her country. Aver has already had and lost his chance at love. Now, marrying the Essene princess is simply a duty, one that will secure peace and strengthen both their peoples. What he won't do is open his heart again. Determined to keep his distance, he focuses only on keeping her safe. So as you can see, we've got a political marriage, some kingdoms battling, and we have female main character who is a believer. I just love a good political fantasy in general. So the next book I have on this list is The Huntress by Carrie Cotton. This book, and I believe the last book that I mentioned actually, are both non-magic books. This book in particular, The Huntress, has been so highly literally recommended to me by so many friends, and I definitely want to get to that one this year if I can. I've just heard nothing but good things. Betrayed by their allies, the last of the Picts have escaped to the innermost part of the endless dark forest, content to remain hidden there forever. Made queen at just a child, Cyrene has given all of her life and heart to the task of making sure her people are never terrorized again. When a handsome stranger from a kingdom that betrayed them falls injured at the boundary of her village, she's forced to choose between mercy and duty. The second son of a ruling monarch, Duncan, would never be considered for the throne. Neither did he wish to be. But when a plague sweeps through the land, he is the only one of royal blood left standing. Returning to the tower that holds too many dark memories, the truth of his father's tangled reign begins to unravel, and Duncan is once again forced into a role he never wanted. I'm wondering if that one is going to have any sort of biblical allegory with the plagues of Egypt. So that will be interesting to see. Also, it seems like there's definitely going to be a lot of biblical themes throughout it, like we just read about mercy and duty. And I've just heard nothing but good things about this book, and I'm really excited that it's another Christian romantasy that has been highly recommended. The third book that I have on this list is actually a new release by Magdalena Metzger, and it's called Wingless Beauty. So this is actually a Thumbelina retelling, and I was actually just talking with the author, and she told me there are very strong Christian themes that are central to this story, and that this is the first book in a series that she is wanting to write. She said this is specifically an adult romantasy, but also it's kind of a slower story. Think Pixie Hollow, Narnia, and The Hobbit kind of all mixed together with Thumbelina. And I just think that that just sounds so incredibly fun. And I also just want to put a little plug in here for my friend Tay. So her YouTube channel, I think it's called Tales and Treats with Tay. I'll put it up on the screen. But she is also a Christian booktuber, and in February, it's her birthday month, and she hosts a readathon called Fabuary, where she encourages people to read clean fairy tale retellings. So this would be perfect for that if that's something you're wanting to partake in. And I'll link her video in the description box if anybody is interested in that. I'm not co-hosting that or anything, but I know there are lots of you that love clean romantasy, and she might be a perfect resource for finding some more clean fairy tale retellings. So Wingless Beauty. Can true love bloom amidst the threat of an eternal winter, or will it be cursed to wither and die? When the Queen of Illyria falls mysteriously ill, the fairy court summons the Gossamer Games to choose her successor. If no heir rises, the seasons will never change again. Talia Thistledown is the last fairy who should compete. Cursed from birth, an orphan with no wings and no magic, she doesn't stand a sprout's chance in winter of winning the crown. Her plan is simple: disappear before the deadly games claim her life. But fate intervenes when a mysterious stranger rescues her, none other than Prince Soren of Illyria. As sparks ignite between them, Talia realizes there's only one way to be with him: return home and fight for the crown that she never wanted. She'll find her faith tested in ways she never imagined as she navigates the treacherous trials that bring out the worst in them. With the magic of creation itself and dark forces of destruction hanging in the balance, one fairy must rise to save them all. She just may learn that God's plans are bigger and better than her own. Can Talia defy the impossible, or will her disadvantages cost her everything, including her heart? So there we have it, a Thumbelina retelling, and it sounds like there are games, and I love a good games type of theme in a fantasy book, so that just totally catches my attention. And also, this is a very wintry read, so it could be perfect for this time of year. Let's go ahead and move on to the non-fantasy romance recommendations. The first one is on Kindle Unlimited, and I don't own this book, but it is called A Noble Masquerade by Christy Ann Hunter. So many people have rated so high, so I definitely want to read this one. This is a Regency era romance, which if you know me, you know that I love a good Regency romance. Lady Miranda Hawthorne acts every inch the lady, but inside she longs to be bold and carefree. Entering her 4th season and approaching spinsterhood in the eyes of society, she pours her innermost feelings out, not in a diary, but in letters to her brother's old school friend, a duke with no intention of ever sending these private thoughts to a man she's heard stories about but never met. Meanwhile, she also finds herself intrigued by Marlowe, her brother's new valet, and although she may wish to break free of the strictures that bind her, falling in love with a servant is more of a rebellion than she planned. When Marlowe accidentally discovers and mails one of the letters to her unwitting confidant, Miranda is beyond mortified. I'm gonna stop there with that one. So that one sounds like it has potential for a love triangle, maybe, if the guy she's writing letters to is interested in her also. I just think that that sounds like so much fun and a lot of room for things to go wrong and a lot of room for some good old-fashioned romance drama. Alright, we're gonna move on to the books that I physically own now, and the first one I have is A Lesson in Propriety by Jen Torano. This book, I have heard, is absolutely hilarious. This one is in 1885, Gilded Age Chicago, and this woman's father has just died, her money has been stolen, and her fiance is completely casting her aside. So Miss Drusilla needs to provide for her family, and she has been left a castle estate from an estranged aunt as an inheritance. So she decides she's going to try to turn this castle into a finishing school to help provide for her family. And apparently this castle is allegedly haunted. So there are going to be some ghosty elements in this, which I just think sounds super funny, but I think I've heard that it's not actually ghost. There's an explanation, but I've also heard that it's funny the way that Jen goes about it. So this one turns into a romance because an architect comes into the picture as she's starting to set up the boarding school, and he decides that he can protect her from developers that are trying to take over her estate. So that's basically all I need to know about A Lesson in Propriety to have my interest super piqued. The next book is Short Straw Bride by Karen Whitemeyer. And this author and this book has also been highly recommended by a lot of my booktube friends. This book is inspired by the movie Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and I've personally never seen that movie, but I wanted to mention it in case it's a favorite of yours. This book takes place in 1880 Texas. 4 brothers, 4 straws, 1 bride. No one steps on Archerland, not if they value their life. But when Meredith Hayes overhears a plot to burn the Archer brothers off of their ranch, a long-standing debt compels her to take the risk. Years of constant vigilance harden a man. Yet when Travis Archer comes across a female trespasser with the same vivid blue eyes as the courageous young girl he once aided, he can't bring himself to send her away. So that is the premise of Short Straw Bride. I think it just sounds like it's going to be a super fun read. The next book I am really excited about reading, and I really need to get to this one soon. This is A Beautiful Disguise by Rosanna M. White. This is the first book in a series called The Imposters. This woman and her brother's father had passed away, and the estate is pretty much going bankrupt, and so they decide that to save their estate, they're going to open a private investigation firm. Of all things, I think that's hilarious, but also like amazing. As they open their private investigation firm, they get a tip that their father's best friend might have actually been a traitor in some way, so that's something that they are investigating. Sir Merritt comes into the picture. So obviously I think we can assume he is the male love interest, and he used to serve in the monarch's elite guard. And he suspects that there is a man leaking information to Germany as there are tensions between the two countries. So he ends up getting a hold of their private investigation firm. It sounds like there's going to be a little bit of mystery in this book to figure out, but also there is going to be a love story. This next book is one that I actually started and I soft DNF'd it literally for no reason other than it just wasn't the time and I wasn't in the mood for this kind of book, but I am truly really excited to read it because what I did read I was enjoying, and that is The Rules of Falling for You by Molly Rushmore. This one is kind of modern day but make it Regency. So there is this gal named Zoe, and she runs a romance advice podcast by taking advice and etiquette from Regency romance novels, but she also super duper struggles with romance and dating and all of that kind of stuff, even though she's running this romance podcast. Enter Harrison. Harrison is her podcast producer, and he is also her best friend's brother. So we got a little trope right there. This story actually takes place when Zoe gets invited to a singles Regency romance retreat, and she convinces Harrison to come with her to get some content while she's there. As you can see where this is going, there's going to be a romance, but make it Regency in the modern day, and I just think that is the most fun concept ever. Also representation for diabetes, because Zoe does have that, and that's one thing that I remember reading, and I thought that was super awesome that there is a book with that kind of representation and just understanding a little bit more what that is like for people who have it. So I'm really excited to actually get to this and finish it. Again, when I put it down, it literally was for no reason other than I just wasn't in the mood for a rom-com type of book. Nonetheless, The Rules of Falling for You on my list to read this year, and I think you might enjoy it too. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Love Story by Karen Kingsbury. So this is a first book in the Baxters. I guess she has several different Baxters series, and this is book one in one of the series. But this book is basically about this man, his wife had passed away, and his grandson has a school project that is due, and he wants to interview his grandfather about his and his grandma's love story. So this book is going to have some flashbacks, modern day, and kind of go back and forth with that as he decides that he's going to revisit his love story and tell it to his grandson for his project. I think that just sounds so wholesome, but I do think this one might be a little heavier on the inspirational themes because his wife that passed away did have cancer. So there's definitely going to be some heavier topics in this, but also I think it's going to be a really inspirational love story. The next book is called Love in a Little White Lie by Tammy L. Gray. This book has also been so highly recommended by other Christian book reviewers, and I am itching to get to it. I know I've said that about like every book in this, but I truly want to read all of these. So this book is about a girl who is not a Christian. Her life is basically falling apart, and she ends up taking a job as a secretary at a church, keeping the fact that she's not a Christian hidden. Well, in comes the guitarist of the church, and he is a very faithful man, and they start to fall in love with each other. So love in a little white lie, the little white lie being that she doesn't actually believe in God and she's working at a church. I don't think that this book is going to be a super funny one. There might be some comical things, but as I've heard people talk about it, that isn't something that has been mentioned a lot. So I would expect this one to be more of an inspirational romance read. And the very last book on this list just sounds so up my alley. It is A Grumpy Sunshine Modern Day, Second Chance at Sunshine Inn by Amy Clipston. So in this book, you are following a really happy, cheerful NICU nurse who actually ends up inheriting half of a coastal inn bed and breakfast from her godmother. And she actually wants to sell it and take the money to fund a nonprofit that her godmother was super passionate about. But the problem is the person who owns the other half of the bed and breakfast is a very grumpy guy who is very passionate about keeping the bed and breakfast. So we're gonna have some tensions there. I think that's such a cute setup for a romance, and I'm wondering if her godmother intentionally is setting them up here. So I just think it sounds so fun and totally up my alley. So I have to know, what is your favorite Christian romance book? Please leave that in the comments below. So there are other recommendations in this video past what I just mentioned. I just think romance books are so fun and they're so good for the soul. And I think it's even better when that love is grounded in finding faith and in God's love. And I think there need to be more stories that are faith-centered and romantic. I hope you found a book here that piqued your interest. I tried really hard to curate a list that would have something for everybody, whether you like romantasy or you like rom-coms or you like inspirational stories. I truly hope that there's something here for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate you as always. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because those things truly help YouTube push out my content to other Christians that are looking for clean Christian books. I hope you have an absolutely amazing week, and I will see you next time. Bye!